Once upon a time, in a small quiet village nestled between two green hills, there lived a woman named Clara. Clara was 52 years old. She had kind eyes, rough hands, and a heart that had seen more than its fair share of hard days. Every single morning, without fail, Clara would wake up before the sun, walk down a long winding dirt path, and carry water from the river back to her home. She did this with two large clay pots. One pot hung on each end of a long wooden pole that she balanced across her shoulders. One of the pots was perfect, smooth, strong, and sealed without a single crack. Every drop of water that went in stayed in. The other pot was different. It had a long crack running along its left side. Every morning, by the time Clara walked the full distance home, that cracked pot had leaked nearly half its water into the dirt path below. This had been going on for 2 full years. One morning, the cracked pot finally spoke. Now, this was no ordinary village, and this was no ordinary story. Because in this place, at this particular moment in time, the cracked pot found its voice. It said quietly, with deep shame in its tone, "Clara, I have to tell you something. I am so sorry." Clara looked at the pot with surprise and said, "Sorry? Sorry for what?" The pot said, "For 2 years, I have failed you every single morning. You carry me all this way, and by the time you get home, I have leaked half the water you needed. I am cracked. I am broken. I am not what a pot is supposed to be. You should have replaced me a long time ago. I am nothing but a disappointment." Clara was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled slowly. A warm, knowing smile. She said, "Walk with me this morning, but this time, I want you to look down at the path beneath you." The cracked pot did as Clara said, and for the first time in 2 years, it actually looked down at the ground below as they walked from the river back toward home. And what it saw stopped it completely. On the left side of the path, the side where the cracked pot always hung, the ground was absolutely covered in the most beautiful wildflowers. Deep purples, bright yellows, soft whites. They grew thick and full and alive all the way from the river to the front door of Clara's home. On the right side of the path, where the perfect pot hung, the ground was dry and bare. The cracked pot could not speak for a long moment. Finally, Clara said gently, "2 years ago, I noticed you were cracked. I knew right away, but instead of replacing you, I went to the market and bought wildflower seeds. Every morning before our walk, I scatter those seeds along your side of the path, and every morning, without even knowing it, you water them for me. All those flowers you see right now, every single one of them, exists because of your crack." She paused and looked at the pot with genuine warmth in her eyes. "I pick those flowers every evening. I bring them to the sick people in our village. I leave them at the doors of people who are lonely and grieving. Those flowers have brought more comfort to this village than any bucket of water ever could. And none of it, not a single petal, would exist if you had been perfect." The cracked pot was completely still. It had spent 2 full years drowning in shame over the very thing that had been silently creating beauty the entire time. Clara sat down on a smooth stone by the side of the path and said thoughtfully, "You know what your real problem was? It was never the crack. The crack was just the crack. Your real problem was that you spent 2 years looking at yourself through the eyes of what you thought you were supposed to be, instead of seeing what you actually were. The pot said softly, "But I lost water every single day." Clara nodded. "Yes, you did. And the flowers drank it. Every weakness has a direction it naturally flows. The only question is whether someone is wise enough to plant the right seeds alongside it." She stood back up, settled the pole across her shoulders, and began walking again. She said quietly, almost to herself, "The perfect pot has never once felt ashamed. But the perfect pot has also never once grown a single flower." That evening, Clara sat on her porch watching the sun go down behind the green hills. Her neighbor, an old farmer named George, walked over and leaned against the fence post. He noticed the fresh wildflowers in the clay vase by her door and said, "Clara, I don't know how you do it. Every single day. Fresh flowers. Where do they all come from?" Clara smiled and said, "From a crack in something that thought it was broken." George tilted his head, not fully understanding. Clara looked at him and said, "George, you have been telling me for years that you are too stubborn to change, that your stubbornness is your greatest flaw. But I have also watched that same stubbornness keep you farming through 3 droughts, 2 floods, and 1 terrible harvest that broke every other farmer in this valley. Your stubbornness didn't break you. It held you together. It just needed the right field to grow in." George was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I never thought about it that way." Clara nodded slowly. "Most people don't. We spend so much time trying to fix our cracks that we never stop to ask what those cracks might be watering." Here is what this old story has always been trying to tell us. Every single person walking this earth has a crack. Some of us are too sensitive. Some of us are too intense. Some of us are too quiet or too loud, too cautious or too bold, too stubborn or too soft. We have spent years, maybe decades, apologizing for these things, hiding them, trying to patch them up and sand them smooth. But what if those cracks were never the problem? What if the only thing missing was someone wise enough to scatter the right seeds alongside them? Your sensitivity is not weakness. It is the reason you understand people that no one else can reach. Your intensity is not a flaw. It is the engine behind every meaningful thing you will ever build. Your stubbornness is not a character defect. It is the wall that stands when everything else falls down. You are not a broken version of perfect. You are a complete version of real. And real, with all its cracks and golden edges and leaking sides, is the only thing in this world that ever grew anything worth keeping. If this story spoke to something inside you today, please give it a like and share it with one person in your life who needs to hear this right now. Subscribe to the Bright Tales for more stories that make you think, feel, and see yourself a little more clearly. Thank you for being here with us today. Until next time, stay cracked, stay real, and stay bright.